What up, folks? This is Ollie here at Visordown.com with another top 10 celebrating the great and good of motorcycling. Actually, not. Today we're talking unfortunate lookers, aesthetically unpleasing, ugly ducklings that were discontinued before they had a chance to become profit-turning swans. Now, there are many reasons for purchasing a motorcycle: power, freedom, convenience, celebrating the completion of a divorce, and of course, because they look the business. But while there are motorcycles that make you go, and others that make you go, pwah, there are also motorcycles that have you reaching for the eye bleach. Of course, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, in most cases just a designer. So behold, motorcycling's most eye-poppingly ugly motorcycles. Sorry BMW, but if you've happened to click on this video, you may want to look away now, because we've concluded 3 of your creations in this rundown, and, being honest, it could have been more. We'll kick things off with this, the BMW F650 CS Scarver, a name that we think might be a portmanteau of carver and scarf. Either way, the Scarver arrived in 2003, during a particularly divisive era of BMW styling, with the likes of the R1200CL and R1200C also apparently born from the same fever dream. Now, in the interests of impartiality, allow us to hand over briefly to then BMW Head of Design David Robb in his promotional spot for the Scarver to tell you what he thinks. Yikes, he thinks this is beautiful? Quirky, yes. Daring, maybe. But beautiful? Nah. With its lumpy proportions and goggled headlights poking out of a squashed front fascia and chopper wheel trims, the ungainly Scarver is then knitted together by panels of varying shapes and colours. He's right though, we hadn't seen anything like this before. And we haven't seen anything like it since either. If this motorcycle had been wheeled out on the Japanese custom scene as a tribute to the badass cruisers of yesteryear, then its lashings of chrome, tapered lines, and aggressive feet forward, seat back, arms up riding position definitely have quirky one-off appeal. However, when this, the Honda Valkyrie Rune, is sat alongside a monkey or fireblade in the showroom, it just sticks out like a sore, shiny thumb. Indeed, getting a look so excessive to work, it needs to be drenched in a whole load of knowing razzmatazz. Like going to Five Guys because you know it's terribly tasty. But like McDonald's offering a £50 Kobe beef burger alongside a £3 Big Mac, Honda and glam don't really mix, so in the end the Rune just looked embarrassingly vulgar. Now, we'll agree refinement, comfort, practicality tends to demand a few aesthetic compromises on your average big cruiser, but just because it's a challenge doesn't mean you should necessarily fail it. Take the Victory Vision for example. On the one hand, it's a big hulking American cruiser that looks like the most elaborately comfortable armchair in the world. So much so, we do wonder if it's possible to fall asleep at the controls. Don't get me wrong, I love a butt-hugging, squishy seat for covering long miles, but the Vision eschews all of its form for function with a profile of swoops and curves that nestle awkwardly between foul custom job and 1950s pastiche. Ungainly, unwieldy, and unattractive. While we wouldn't want to suggest the launch of the Vision was responsible for the company's eventual demise, let's just say not much time elapsed between the two events happening. With a name like BattleTwin, how could you possibly go wrong? Well, Buell found a way. A big, beefy sports bike way before the Hayabusa was the Hayabusa, the Buell RR1200 BattleTwin was quite a sensation, with myriad clever touches all over, such as horizontally mounted rear suspension and a bespoke frame. Alas, while the RR1200 BattleTwin was a marvel under the skin itself was pretty hideous. It serves a purpose as an effectively streamlined and aerodynamic complement to its hefty power and torque, but it made the RR1200 BattleTwin look overweight and overstyled, with its ostentatious curved screen, front wheel arch and drag-apingly broad fairing, looking like something you'd take to Bonneville salt flats, while the bloated RR1200 BattleTwin might look cool at full throttle against a mountainous backdrop. Out in the real world, it just looked like it ordered everything in supersize. Who could forget the BMW C1? With BMW having apparently decided that the humble helmet cruelly robbed riders the freedom of having the wind in your hair, wincing from your eye sockets being stretched, or having bugs getting jammed in your teeth, it decided it needed to do something about it. So essentially the C1 is its response to a question that may have been asked, except no one really cared enough about the answer. Endowed with a tall, curved rooftop, and feeling tall enough to make you think twice about passing under some bridges, the C1 looks like a rascal with a roll hoop on its comically tiny wheels and crumpled zoning beak at the front. Sure, while the C1 with its seatbelts made it safer than your average two-wheeler, the damage to your reputation for owning one was far more painful. Ironically, regulations in some countries, including the UK, meant riders still had to use a helmet when riding the C1, removing its one redeeming feature among a host of other irredeemable ones. It isn't often Aprilia gets it wrong with its motorcycles, and if you happen to have an eye for design, there isn't much Philip Stark gets wrong either. After all, who thought a lemon squeezer could be sexy? It's quite a jump to go from crafting furniture, kitchenware and toilets to motorcycles, so perhaps it's not surprising that when Aprilia gave Philip Stark lemons, he designed a lemon. The Aprilia Moto 6.5 is certainly an engaging looker, and one can see the vision if you squint and use some imagination, but the proportions are ungainly and the bulbous fairing makes it look unfinished. One might call it avant-garde and chic, but these are two words not necessarily high on the list of wants from most bikers. At the end of the day, who are we to judge what's hot on the runways of Paris? Except this is Manchester, it's damp and it's riding on a pothole-ridden road, so it's just weird. Bimota has a history of fairly discerning design directions. Take the current KB4 and Tezzy H2 for instance, but a Sasha Lakic-penned Mantra was less a daring vision for the future and more of a hideous night terror. Looking like a motorcycle wearing scuba diving gear, the Mantra is all swoops and creases and carvings that head in the opposite direction of where you'd expect them to go, as though it had been constructed inside out. Launched in the 90s, a fondness for the era in retrospect means the Mantra is a fascinating motorcycle to gaze upon today. It's still ugly, but then so was crimped hair and double denim, but you still wear them for a fancy dress party now and again, which kind of sums up the Mantra neatly as a talking point when you bring it out in public, just no more than once or twice a year. It's really easy to hate on the Gilera CX-125, but like the BMW K1 and Bimota Mantra, there is something actually quite pleasing about viewing a motorcycle so brazenly of its era through 2022 binoculars. Emerging from the same Federico Martini-housed mind that also bore the Bimota DB1, the Gilera CX-125 is brimming with nifty features, such as a single-sided swing arm that made the wheels look like they were floating from one side. However, while the fullest fair design served a purpose by being aerodynamic, it was hard to escape its dustbuster on wheels appearance. An impression not exactly assisted by wheel trims on one side that mimicked plates you get from Halfords to replace the ones nicked off your Vauxhall Cavalier. Either way, it's a bizarre thing to have a motorcycle that is more attractive on one side than it is on the other, unless it's in pink, because that's 360 degrees awful. Is this the Johammer J1200, the ugliest motorcycle of all time? Well, no, it's actually not, but only because it's been disqualified on a technicality, because we can't be sure it's actually a motorcycle. Instead, what we see here is someone riding a radiator, with oversized discuses for wheels, ergo, not a motorcycle. Okay, so I don't need to say much here except that the Johammer J1200 is designed as such to maximise efficiency for its electric powertrain, and in fairness, it does a good job of hiding its battery pack. Except riding a battery on wheels is surely more appealing than this solution. When even James Bond himself can't make a motorcycle look cool, then you know there's a problem. A mainstay of ugly listicles ever since its launch in 1997, the BMW R1200C was the German firm's answer to Harley-Davidson in the booming cruiser market. However, it was big, it was overweight, and it was slow. But you'd only find that out if you could stomach the looks long enough to approach it. With its odd proportions and confusing detailing, the R1200C is that rare thing of being a motorcycle that looks strangely overstyled and yet unfinished at the same time. Famously going on to have a starring role in James Bond's Tomorrow Never Dies, the fact it proved nimble enough on screen not to kill Pierce Brosnan and Michelle Yeoh was proof once and for all that movies just aren't anything like real life. The R1200C may not have been available for long, but let's just say its legacy never dies. So there we have it, 10 motorcycles that we think are ugly. Now, you don't have to agree with us, and we are absolutely certain there are plenty of other nominations to include here. Either way, we'd love you to tell us by leaving a comment below, and while you're at it, please like and subscribe for more motorcycling video goodness. Try it, you might like it. That's enough from me, now go look at something pretty. Ciao for now.